Between the two of them, the inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the VRRC and the beginning of the second half of the Porsche Cup Championship. We've had 4 weeks of racing so far. Our multi-class championship is very finely poised across both the Cup and the Cayman GT4 class. And tonight we arrive at one of the very best racetracks in the world to begin the second half of the season. Andy McEwen and Jack Oliphant, as always, here to talk you through all of the action. And Jack, I know you've only been around for one of the first 4 rounds, but I think already you're starting to get a taste for just how exciting this championship's been and hopefully how exciting it will continue to be.
Yeah, Oulton Park is an unbelievable circuit, Andy, as we both know, but it does have a bit of a reputation to be a little bit processional. And if any set of cars and any set of driver can make it exciting, it's these set of drivers and these set of cars. I'm really looking forward to it. The 911 and the 718, the GT4 version of the Porsche, they were brilliant last week at Vallelunga. It gave us some proper action. Not many penalties either, which is what we like to see. Hopefully, Oulton Park, people will be trying around the outside, up the inside, going around the outside of Druids is always a favourite one to see some sparks, shall we say. But people always seem to try it. So, yeah, it's going to be a good round.
It should. Hopefully, it is a fantastic racetrack, a real driver's favourite. The cars should be awesome to drive around here, particularly that GT3 spec Cup or 911 Cup spec GT3 Porsche, if that made sense. And it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. Those scoring good points tonight, well, they will be scoring them towards what should be a fascinating championship battle, at the end of which our top 5 drivers in each class receives some prizes. Within the GT3 Cup class, the champion receives the CAMMUS Sim Racing wheel and pedals, as well as a champion's trophy, of course. It is the sim racing seat for the second placed driver, and the Mecca sim racing gear for our third place driver, trophies for the top 3, and then VRRC sim racing wear, although you can wear them just to go down to the shops if you wanted to, for the 4th and 5th place drivers. And each week we select a driver of the round from the Cup class who receives a medal and a balloting pack courtesy of PowerMax. Then within the GT4 category, the champion getting the big trophy and some sim racing gloves, more clothing available for the rest of the top 5, as well as varying levels of PowerMax balloting packs as well to all of the drivers who finish within the top 5. And really at this halfway mark in the championship, Jack, not a lot to choose between the top drivers.
No, but there was a lot to choose between the top driver last week. Jay Warren was absolutely ballistic, wasn't he? He was absolutely flying. Carl Felvers did a very good job as well, and Eric Axelsson came out in third. Now, Eric Axelsson's a bit of a strange one there, Andy, isn't it? Because he didn't seem all that quick, and all of a sudden in the second race, he really sort of turned it on himself. And Josh Martin, obviously, getting a nice 1-2 there at the end. But Jay Warren was fairly untouchable, and that's why we also gave him the driver of the round. Both races were extremely impressive. And in the GT4 category, if we can move it over to that one, there was also a fair bit of a domination, probably even more so, this time by Ben Smith, though. He seems fairly untouchable in this GT4. Paul Lamy gave it a good go in qualifying, and actually when we spoke to Ben Smith, he he actually said how impressed he was that Paul was able to keep with him quite as close. But unfortunately for Paul, over the course of the race, his race pace sort of dropped off towards the end. And in race 2, he never got through the field, and Ben Smith able to come out on top. Chris Blakey was in third in the GT4s as well. And that does line up the championship to be fairly tasty, Andy.
It certainly does. Within the GT3 category, that pair of top 5 finishes for Kyle Felvis means that he now moves further clear of Theo Mercurius. Now, Mercurius was absent last week and sadly is not racing tonight either, so that will now likely end his championship hopes. It means that realistically now, it's down to the likes of Jay Warren, winner a week ago, and Eric Axelsson, who was the reversed grid winner, to try and close that margin. So it's a reasonable margin, 21 points between Felvis and Warren, with Axelsson a further 5 back. He's then 8 ahead of Nicky Taylor, who is 1 point ahead of Elliot Dalton Ayres, who really had the first bad race of his season so far. A disappointment in race 1 after a spin, I seem to recall. Saw him finish down in 12th place before recovering to 5th in race 2. That became his drop score, though, so he's still well and truly in contention ahead of Andy Dorman, Andy Carroll, Joel Lask, and Josh Martin, who got himself his first podium of the season following his retry race team teammate Eric Axelsson home to a 1-2 finish in race number 2. Then within the Caymans, we have an interesting situation because although it was Ben Smith who won both races on the road, he was hit with 2 post-race or post-event penalties for exceeding track limits. So he loses the 2 wins, and Paul Laramie, who had been leading the championship earlier on in the season, remember, inherits the maximum points, essentially. So that means that gap comes down, 14 points now between the top 2, with Chris Blakey, twice a third-place finisher a week ago, narrowly clear of Sam Milner and John Jones as they battle for some of the lower positions within the top 5. Mark Stokes, Kenny Press, and Darren Butler all failed to race last week, and so they've dropped a little bit further down in the points. But Jack, we mentioned it earlier on, we're racing at Oulton Park tonight, a real favourite circuit of ours, and I think we're about to see why, aren't we?
Yeah, and luckily, again, one of the downsides of Oulton Park in real life is the fact you can't really see that much unless you stand up by Cascades and Knickerbrook. But here we've got a beautiful view of the entire track as they go round it. An Old Hall corner, absolutely stunning. We'll see it all as Andy takes us through a lap. But it's one of the special tracks of England and motorsport in the world, to be honest. Known as the Green Hell, of course, and are located towards Little Budworth or Tarpley and Cheshire. It's a real gem, and I think everybody from all over the world, sort of when they come to England, it's one of the tracks that they really want to go and race, along with Donington, Brands Hatch, and of course Silverstone for some reason, even though it's nowhere near as good as the likes of Oulton Park and the rest of them. But yeah, and it's a special one, and I believe you can take us for a hot lap around it in one of these GT3 cars.
So, Oulton Park, one of the great racetracks in the United Kingdom, and you're about to get a first-hand view of just what makes it so special. On board then into Old Hall Corner, on the left the Cup Car, on the right the Cayman GT4, and in both cars, Old Hall Corner is a real rollercoaster ride, a snap of oversteer through the compression on the apex, and you head down the avenue through the right-hand kink at Denton's, a big bump just as you turn into the cambered left-hander at Cascades. Use that curb on the inside at your peril though, because it can very easily over-rotate the car. Now we accelerate up and over the crest down the Lakeside Straight into the quick left-hander at Island Bend, almost flat out there in both classes of cars. Careful not to do it too far wide though, because that compromises your angle into the banked right-hand hairpin at Shell, out of which we run through this gradual right-hander, positioning ourselves for the first of the 2 chicanes, hammering the curb there through the left, the right, and then through the final left-hander of the Britain chicane, before accelerating up and over Hilltop, past one of the big spectator areas from where you get a great view of the Oulton Park circuit. We are skipping the Hislop chicane, by the way, and running the old-school Knickerbrook corner, something we can only do in sim racing these days, sadly. And it is a real thrill ride up and over Clay Hill, past the water tower, through the left-hand kink, down onto the brakes, and down 1 gear there in the Cup Car, a 4th gear double apex right-hander at Druids. The car can very easily understeer wide, particularly with no weight over the front axle in the Cup Car on the exit of the turn. And then there's just 1 more corner to go, through the compression and over the rise at Lodge Corner. Don't ruin the lap now. A perfect exit up and over Deers Leap, and that is a lap around Oulton Park. It's going to be a real challenge for the drivers tonight, what I'm sure they're all looking forward to. So that is a lap around the Oulton Park circuit, and it's going to be a fascinating couple of races to come a little bit later on. We're into the midst of qualifying now, Jack. 7 minutes to go. We're just past halfway, but we just saw there every corner around this circuit presents a challenge. It's the undulation, the blind apexes, the compressions, and in cars that handle in quite a unique way, let's say, particularly the rear-engined cup cars, this place can be a real handful, can't it?
It absolutely can. Yeah, it's very similar to sort of Brands Hatch in the way that every single corner is unlike any other corner on the planet. Every single corner is completely unique. And as you go down Cascades, as we're watching Joel Lask here, as you said, the compression changes, the elevation changes, the camber changes pretty much 3 times during the corners. So you have to be really careful with it. And down through the island bend, you said on that VT that it's nearly flat. You don't want to drift too wide. That's a lot easier said than done. I've seen plenty of Janetta just go straight on at Island before you even get to Shell Corner and then just end up in the tyre wall. So to do it at the speed that these guys are going to be doing it is fairly stunning. But here's a question, Andy. You actually told me something there that I didn't know before. We're doing the Knickerbrook, the old style Knickerbrook corner here as they go down towards it instead of doing the chicane. You said we can't do that in real life. How come we can't do that in real life anymore? I didn't know that piece of knowledge.
Well, because there is next to no runoff area on the exit of that corner. The chicane was built in, I believe, the early 90s and has really been used since about 1992 was when they started using the chicane every time, because it was just a hotspot for pretty nasty accidents, really. Now in the sim, we don't have to worry about that too much. The drivers are far less likely to get injured if they go off and make contact with the wall, and the cars cost a lot less money to fix if you do it in the sim and manage to do some damage. So yeah, we don't unfortunately get to see that. They do use it actually once a year for the rally that takes place there over Bonfire Weekend, and there are certain stages of that rally where the cars come over Hilltop and through the old school Knickerbrook corner. In fact, they even do it in reverse, which is quite a sight to see. But as far as racing is concerned, it's been over 30 years actually since we've used that version of the corner, which is a slightly terrifying thought.
I was going to say, I bet you were trying to remember those dates, weren't you, there? And I thought, oh, that's making me feel old. I mean, I wasn't even born when they were last using the Knickerbrook corner then. So it's going to be quite a sight, that's for sure. And even in the sim world, it's a bit of a shame we can't see it in the real world. But it is a bit of a shame almost that we're using it, because that chicane does offer up a good overtaking opportunity. I wonder how it's going to act, when going down that straight into Knickerbrook, and whether we're actually able to get many overtakes as well, because really they're few and far between here at Oulton Park.
Yes, it won't in itself present an overtaking opportunity. You're not going to lunge someone up the inside into Knickerbrook corner unless you've got a bit of a death wish, really. But mistakes are going to be more common through there. One of the things you could really see from the onboard lap is that as you turn through the apex at Knickerbrook corner, you go over a big bump, which is that transition between the old circuit and the exit of the new chicane, and that can really unsettle a car. So you might not see as many moves through Knickerbrook as you normally would, but it might create some opportunities of running up the hill into Druids, which you mentioned is a place where if you're feeling really brave, you can try and make an overtake. And I think a few mistakes down at Knickerbrook corner could yield some more opportunities there. Speaking of mistakes, that was Carl Felvers getting it all wrong coming out of Lodge corner. He crosses the line, stays in 4th position, but Carl Felvers, championship leader, Jack, he's been driving very much with a champion's head on his shoulders all season long, and it is working. He's only won 2 races so far out of the 8 that we've had, but he's yet to finish out of the top 5, the only driver who can claim that.
Exactly, and consistency is key. When you're trying to win a championship, just talk to Colin Turkington about it. So, and he was the king of Oulton Park. So, if Carl can channel that sort of inner mindset, then he's in for a good round. Nicky Taylor going very wide through the Shell hairpin, and I thought he was sliding all the way off the circuit there. I don't know if there's a little bit of lag maybe playing a bit of a part in that one, but Nicky Taylor absolutely trying to send it as much as possible. We knew that Kyle didn't enjoy Vallelunga. He made that perfectly clear in the YouTube chat, and whenever we spoke to him, and his supporters made that clear in the YouTube chat as well. But here at Oulton Park is certainly a circuit that he should know a lot better, as they all should, and it should really close up the competitive nature of this field, shall I say. The GT4s, that's a bit of a different story. Paul Laramie here, it's only 0.3 of a second off the back of Ben Smith. So again, Ben was saying that Paul's very close to him at Vallelunga. Maybe Paul's just as close to him here at Oulton Park. We could see a little bit of an upset.
The problem for Paul has been that ever since that pesky Ben Smith turned up, you can get within a few tenths a lap of him, but the trouble is Ben is consistently that couple of tenths of a second quicker every lap. And we saw that really in the first race at Vallelunga, didn't we, where Laramie went with him in the early stages, but gradually, lap after lap after lap, Ben Smith would just pull 2 tenths this lap, 3 tenths the next lap, 4 tenths the next lap, and just gradually pull away and almost break the spirit of Paul Laramie, who was just left thinking, well, I can't lap as consistently as him. Now, of course, later turned out that Ben was exceeding track limits, so he'll definitely have that on his mind tonight. In qualifying, of course, exceeding track limits will lead to a lap time being deleted. In the races, though, if you do it too many times, then you get a drive-through penalty, and if you don't serve that drive-through penalty, then 30 seconds are added to your race time. So Ben Smith will definitely be mindful of that, but he should be feeling pretty confident, especially if he can out-qualify Laramie, because as we've said, it's not easy to pass around here. You really need to either have a mistake from the driver in front, or you need to have a good 6 or 7 tenths of a second a lap on them to be able to actually make an overtake. And quite clearly, Laramie doesn't have that sort of advantage over Ben Smith.
No, but if we look at the front end of the GT3s either, there might not be too much movement if your theory runs true, because Joel Lask is less than a tenth of a second ahead of Andy Dorman, who's in third, wedged in between Elliot Dalton-Ayres, who, as you said, didn't really have the time of his life at Vallelunga, so he hasn't really been on my radar, having only been here for one of those rounds. But at the beginning of the season, Andy, he was saying that he was fairly strong. Well, he looks like he's regained some of that impetus here at Oulton Park, because in second place, very, very quick. Andy Dorman's just gone quicker in sector 2, we could see a potential change in that top 3. If Andy Dorman can string together a sector 3, you never know. Andy Carroll in 7th place here as well, quicker in sector 1. He had to overtake someone through sector 2. It may not be quicker for him coming around the last corner. No, it's not. He's still in 7th place. Jay Warren in 6th. Green sector 1. Carl Felvers green sector 1, but Jay Warren's just gone green sector 2. Andy, this could be a quicker lap.
And he could do with it as well, couldn't he? Down in 6th place. Remember, Jay is now carrying 40 kilos of success ballast after his strong week last time out at Vallelunga. So this is not usually a good place to be carrying that weight. Let's see what he can get out of this one, though. Out of Lodge Corner, up and over Deer's Leap. Is he going to improve upon 6th place? Needs to find just over a tenth of a second. Finds more than that. Goes on the front row of the grid. You wouldn't have thought it possible, Jack, to fit another car between Joel Lask and Elliot Dalton-Ayres, but Jay Warren has just managed to do that. The top 3 covered by 27 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody else is going to improve, apart from potentially Carl Felvers, actually. He's just gone green sector 1, green sector 2. Could we sandwich one more car in there for an overstuffed Subway sandwich like they always give me, to be honest? It's always a nightmare when you carry it home. But it's going to be a very, very close run thing, isn't it? Because the top 5 are pretty close as it stands, but Carl Felvers the furthest away by over a tenth. I think that's about to be reduced. Dalton-Ayres can't go quicker. He's in the pits. As the checkered flag drops, Kyle Felvers, championship leader, jumps to the top of the times.
Wow, and we have now 4 of them covered by less than a tenth of a second. That is ridiculous. Kyle Felvers fastest. Ben Smith about to go through and complete his final lap of the qualifying session. Doesn't improve, but it looks as though the Cayman class pole position is gonna go his way. But that was a fantastic late effort, that from Kyle Felvers. We knew how important track position was going to be here at Oulton Park, and that was not lost on Kyle one little bit. A fantastic late effort puts the championship leader, in fact championship leaders, plural, on their relative class pole positions. We'll hear from them in just a couple of minutes' time. We're going to take a very short break, during which I'll explain to my co-commentator there's no such thing as an overstuffed sandwich from Subway. Well, another thriller-minute qualifying session complete in the VRRC Porsche Cup, and a late charge to the top for our championship leader, Carl Felvers, who for one moment looked as though he was going to be facing a bit of an uphill struggle, but Kyle managed to find that lap right at the death to move to the top of the grid, and we can catch up with him now. Carl Felvers joins us once again in the commentary box. Well, Kyle, that was quite an impressive late effort, wasn't it, really? Where did you find that time from?
God knows, to be fair. I think that's the most. I haven't had a pole position in ages. I think that's the most
Yeah.
major reaction I've had to a pole position. I got round Cascades after that, pressed my tab button, see where I was, and it said first, and the reaction I had was insane. But yeah, this track, I'm really not like getting along with it tonight, and I think to get pole, I think that's just brilliant for the championship.
You are in a commentary box occupied by two Oulton Park fans, so now I'll hear no more negativity towards this great track. I did see in the YouTube comments, though, there's a bump you're not getting on with. Where is that?
Going into the really fast right-hander. After the chicane, you got a really quick right-hander. There's a bump. Yeah. Yeah, there's a bump on it, and I refuse to believe the bump's there in real life, but it's sending the car high up into the air and making it a big struggle, but we got through it.
It might not be that big. There is a bump there, but yes, I think it might be slightly exaggerated. You handled it well, though. Pole position is a good place to be, especially in a track where it's difficult to overtake at, so surely some more good points heading your way in the next half an hour.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a struggle around this track to overtake. I think me and Nikki and Ethan were all doing some battling together as friends earlier, and I think we were struggling to get past each other. But I also think with the chicane and that bump, I think they're going to be like pinch points, so people are going to have crashes there. So I think to be in front, that's definitely a bonus.
Let's make sure you're not one of them, and you should be able to extend that championship lead. Carl, thanks for joining us. Best of luck for the race.
Thank you.
That's Carl Felvers, then, our GT3 pole sitter and championship leader. It's a very similar story, isn't it, Jack, for the man who'll be starting at the front of the Cayman class?
It is indeed. Ben Smith, I believe we can have another chat to you, as we seem to be doing every single week at this point. But I have to say, I know you gave him credit last week, but Paul Laramie, again, that little bit closer this week.
Yeah, he was doing well, to be fair. In the practice, he was a lot closer, but I pulled one out the bag there. That's the best lap I've done by an absolute country mile.
I was going to say, he sounded like a bit like Kyle just was then, sort of almost a little bit relieved and surprised about how you picked that lap out. Do you think you're going to be able to replicate those times in the race?
I hope so. We'll see. I think the lap traffic could play a bit more of a part in this one. I noticed that in practice that people were sort of forcing their way through a bit more and costing a bit more time, but like I say, we'll see how it goes.
The reverse grid is the one that we'll probably end up talking about potentially if we speak to you at the end of race one, because the reverse grid around Oulton Park, it's difficult to overtake. You want to qualify right at the front, don't you, really? But then the reverse grid sort of messes all that up anyway. With all those GT3s coming past you, what's sort of the plan? Because obviously you've been told to stay on the racing line, to try your best to stay there and not cause any problems. Is that going to be a bit more difficult to actually do at Oulton?
I think it definitely will be. I try and be cautious with lap traffic, but that could change depending on. I think you do have to just hold your position and not get bullied out the way, which sometimes I can definitely be subject to. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I always like a good reverse grid.
Well, last sort of point, a bit touching on last week, really. You ended up obviously winning them both on the road. You got them taken away from you. What's your sort of reaction to that?
I was slightly surprised, but watching it back, it's definitely right, to be honest. I mean, I didn't actually gain anything from the off tracks. It was just pretty stupid for me, but I still got more points than Paul overall, so it's not the end of the world.
Well, 14 points in it. We look forward to seeing how the rest of the championship goes, Ben, and good luck for the rest of the evening.
Cheers. Hopefully see you in a bit.
Excellent stuff. Great to catch up with our class pole sitters, and we'll wait and see how they get on in the race to come. Now, before we jump into that first race, a reminder that our fun races are ongoing here at the VRRC. They're free to enter these fun races, and if you want to come along and have a play with some of our regular drivers, then 8 o'clock on Sunday evening is the time to be here. And this week, another American flavour. We're heading to the now closed, unfortunately, Riverside racetrack in California, and it's the 1970s Trans Am cars, real V8 beasts that you get to get behind the wheel of, and you can come along and have some fun with us all at 8 o'clock on Sunday evening, Jack.
I love the fact that even in that photo, they're all understeering. It's all either that or oversteer, isn't it? Right, the time attack as well in a Skip Barber. You can fly around the Barber Motorsport Park, which is quite nice. And also in America, Andy was right, the American theme sort of running through this week. 2 weeks, we'll run the time attack, and it started on the 27th of November, actually. So we've only had 2 days of it, which means you've got another 12, if my maths are correct, to get out there and get your lap times in. And by all means, there's cash prizes to win as well if you are a member of the VRRC. So if you win, if you set the fastest time, whether you set 1 time, whether you set 15 or 100, doesn't matter. As long as you're the top, you can win yourself £15 shiny cash money in your bank account. Second place, £10, and so on and so forth. You can see it on the bottom left-hand side. If you're not a member, you can still take part. See how fast you are compared to the rest of the VRRC members. See how fast you are compared to the drivers that you see here tonight in tonight's broadcast. And obviously, get yourself down, hopefully, get a bit of a taste for it, and then become a member and join our championships.
Indeed so. Right then, before we jump into the first race, let's take another quick break. Well, race number 1 here from Oulton Park coming your way. Welcome back, everyone, to the VRRC, the Porsche Cup. The second half of the season is just a few minutes away. The cars will be lining up on the grid as we speak for our first of 2 25-minute races. Well, Jack, what a fascinating opening race we've got in prospect here. A super tight qualifying session. But as I said before, unless you've got really a big pace advantage over the cars around you, not going to be easy to find a way through. So the first sort of 5 or 6 seconds of this race, the run into and through Old Hall Corner for the first time, could be pivotal.
It could be, and obviously everybody's going to be trying to line up and move into the Shell hairpin, which is a little bit easier said than done because of the island bend. So this first half a lap, and all of a sudden you run out of overtaking opportunities. Maybe the last corner, you can dive one up the inside. We see that quite a lot as well. But really, I would say there's only 2, sort of, I would say in hyphens, easy overtaking opportunities around this track. So you're absolutely right. Who gets off the line first is really pivotal. And one thing that gets spoken about quite a lot, Oulton Park, if you start right at the back of the grid, obviously you're starting uphill. And you know, normally in real life you can't see the lights either, but that's not really a problem in the sim, obviously. But you can see how even the grid at the front, you're sort of looking slightly uphill, and then third or fourth, you're actually going downhill slightly. So even that can change how you sort of remove the clutch and actually get into this race.
Speaking from experience there, starting on that steep uphill bit?
Yeah, once, and it was truly horrendous.
Excellent stuff. Right there,
I've
we
started
are
from the front though as well.
Good. Yeah, that's what I meant. That little uphill bit at the front. Yeah, I don't know what you were talking about. Right then, let's get our first race of the evening underway, shall we? The red lights about to go on. There is your pole sitter and championship leader, Kyle Felvers. Remember, he is 21 points clear of Jay Warren, who effectively is now second in the championship. Can he extend that from pole position? Let's find out. The lights go out. out. Away they go. A brilliant start made by Felvers. Joel Laskell slotted to second, Jay Warren third, so it's grid order at the moment. And that was Elliot Altonaires trying to find a gap up the inside. Out of Old Hall Corner they go, single file though. Felvers leads the way. Joel Lask in second position. And already, Jack, Kyle's starting to make a break. There's one off further back, and that is Andy Dorman. No, Andy Dorman, after a great qualifying effort, is in the barriers already.
Yeah, that's a shame for Andy, isn't it? He was one of the 4 drivers. I think that was right in that thick, or 5 drivers even right in the thick of the Subway sandwich. But just like an overstuffed Subway, always a meatball drops out, doesn't it? Unfortunately, there's too many cars on a one-bike piece of track. So we've got 4, luckily, and we've got the rest of the field as well. I think only Andy Dorman is a bit of a victim with that opening lap carnage.
I'm really looking forward to see how far this sandwich analogy will
go.
Oh,
I'm stretching it out.
Elvis leads them over the hill, with Joel Lask doing his best to go with him. Jay Warren, not for the first time this season, struggling on cold tyres. It does take him a lap or 2 just to get fully up to speed. There they go through Knickerbrook, and full commitment from Joel Lask. Would you expect anything less, really? That means that he closes right in on Felvers' tail as they head over Clay Hill and up towards the double apex right-hander at Druids Corner. Great camera view there as they come into sight and nail both apexes actually for the top 2. Warren dropping back there in third, with Dalton Ayres and Nicky Taylor now stacked up behind him. Josh Martin sits in 6th position, with Andy Carroll, Craig Curtis, Ethan Hill and Paul Laramie completing the top 10, because look, Laramie has got himself ahead of Ben Smith. Now that's a bit of a turn up for the books, Jack.
Really impressive, especially on the opening lap. I wonder what happened to Ben Smith. Did he get caught up with some GT3 action? Did he just not get off the line? He maybe caused the victim of starting uphill and maybe didn't get his clutch properly. And it's something that maybe we'll be able to speak to him afterwards, because frankly we're running out of things to ask him. So it's at least a bit of a talking point for us. But Jay Warren, as we look back at the championship, if he does become a runner-up here in the GT3 class at the end of the season, will we potentially be looking back and thinking the cold tyre, sort of those 1 or 2 laps, trying to get those tyres up to temperature, is that potentially what's going to cost him? Because he has given Carl Felvers a massive lead, as well as Joel Lask, but we're talking championship. He's given Carl Felvers a massive lead here. It's going to be very hard to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. He's 1.6 seconds behind Lask, who is half a second adrift to Felvers. So yeah, he's over 2 seconds shy of the race leader at the moment. There they go. Look down the hill. Carl Felvers continues to lead the way. That was a change for third place, though. Well, we said we wouldn't see any moves into Knickerbrook Corner. Already that proven wrong. Elliot Dalton Ayres up ahead of Jay Warren. Didn't exactly see how that started. It could be that Jay had a slightly suboptimal run out of the Britain chicane, but either way, by the time they come out of Knickerbrook, he's down into 4th place. So Dalton Ayres breaks into 3rd. Nicky Taylor there drifts wide out of Druids, and that's that crest that I mentioned on the hot lap there, Jack, in a rear-engined car with no weight over that front axle. So easy to understeer wide over some of these crests.
It is, and the thing is, you want to sort of correct that understeer, as you're going into it, and all of a sudden you have a massive oversteer correction, don't you? And it's really difficult. It's a delicate balancing act. These cars are so hard to drive. I think we sort of take it for granted somewhat, but I think most of us, if we're watching and then we jumped in the sim ourselves, we'd be getting nowhere near the times that these guys are getting for at least 200 laps around a circuit like this, because it is so difficult. And obviously, the mod that we're using for Oulton Park, they've driven a lot, but not the Knickerbrook version. That's why Kyle Felvers was coming in surprised, or shall we say, descriptive of the Knickerbrook entry, and obviously his dislike for it. But to be fair, I think if you went through Knickerbrook in real life there that quickly, you'd probably end up going skyward as well, mainly because of the barriers that are in the way.
Well, indeed. So that bump does genuinely exist. It is a real thing, and going over it at this speed is not ideal. Now, this might not be good news for Carl Felvers, because Joel Lask has closed right in, going into the part of the circuit that Kyle has told us he's struggling with. Joel Lask, we've seen already, is full of bravery through Knickerbrook Corner, but he was, if anything, a bit too close there, really, to Felvers. Maybe lost a bit of downforce on the nose of the car, just couldn't quite commit to the corner as he'd have wanted, and so Felvers regains that margin again, heading over Clay Hill. Out of Druids Corner they go, though. These two, the class of the field, really. Elliot Dalton Ayres doing his best to go after them, but so far, not quite able to match their pace.
No, but he is dropping Jay Warren, isn't he? So we can say that it's cold tyres potentially, but that's not an excuse anymore. We're 5 minutes into this one nearly, and all the tyres will be right up to temperature. Everyone will be into the groove. Paul Laramie goes wide and loses the lead to Ben Smith, just as we're about to say potentially he's doing so well, but I think he's about to lose it. At least we saw this overtake this time, Andy, as they go into the final corner. It is Ben Smith who retakes the lead, but Paul Laramie's not lying down with this one.
No, you're going to try and get the switch back, but didn't quite have the momentum over the hill. So Ben Smith takes advantage of that little mistake, then goes through. Laramie closes right in through Old Hall Corner. It is a very late apex that you take at Old Hall Corner, so it does leave that inviting gap on the inside, but Laramie wasn't quite able to fill that gap, and now he misses the apex at Cascades, and that will lose him momentum down the Lakeside Straight. So Ben Smith goes back to the lead of the Cayman class. Meanwhile, back at the head of the field, Carl Felver still under threat here for Joel Last. Joel Last can get close, but I really only see a mistake changing this now. Now, a mistake could come from Felvis. It's not unheard of, but right now, Joel Lask, I think, is finding out just how difficult it is to find a way through here.
Yeah, it's, well, he's going to have to be inventive, isn't he? He's going to have to think outside the box, as most people do when they come to Oulton Park, or force Carl Felvis into a massive mistake. Now, Kyle is driving at Vallelunga anyway. He was telling us about this, like he's just trying to score the points. He's not going to be shaken out of anything. He's not going to be riled up to go for a ridiculous move or a stupid defensive position. Andy Dorman recovering there, going through Ben Smith. But is that Paul Laramie potentially trying to take advantage of it? No, not quite close enough. So, yeah, Joel Last's going to have to be inventive. He's going to have to do it. And I think the idea of potentially trying to pressure Kyle Felvis into some kind of battle is not going to work. If Kyle Felvis thinks he's not faster, he potentially will just sort of say, okay, you take the position. We're still over a second and a half clear of Elliot Dalton-Ayres.
Now, but
How
that's
did that
Paul
happen?
Laramie being waved through seemingly by Ben Smith, and then I think he was so shocked about it that he threw it away too. So Laramie goes back to the lead of the Cayman class. Ben Smith is already snapping at his heels to try and get the place back. I have no idea what that was all about. Laramie's wide though, and he's off the road altogether now. Ben Smith goes back through, and Laramie bouncing down the grass. That was a truly bizarre turn of events. Ben Smith gets himself back into the class lead. I can only assume, Jack, and it is an assumption, that they've had some contact somewhere earlier on, maybe when Smith initially moved ahead of Laramie, and Ben has decided to, in an attempt to avoid a penalty, give the place back. But actually, Laramie's come out of that even worse second time round.
Yes, it's a strange one, to be honest. Maybe something we could talk to them about afterwards as well. There's quite a few talking points in the GT4s actually now all of a sudden, which is really rather a relief, to be honest, because I was going to ask him whether he did jam or cream first on his scones. So yeah, it's quite nice. But Joel Lask here trying his best, but he's still got about 17 minutes to go, Andy. There's no rush, is there? But Elliot Dalton-Ayres seems to be catching up. I'm just going to have a look at the times, actually, and see. Nicky Taylor's just gone purple in Sector 2. Elliot Dalton-Ayres on the previous lap was about half a second quicker than the two leaders.
Yes, so what's going on here then? Is Felvis's pace starting to desert him? Remember, he is the heaviest car on the grid within the GT3 class. He's running 45 kilos of success ballast. Joel Lask in second place, carrying only 20 kilos, and Elliot Dalton-Ayres only 15. So it stands to reason, doesn't it, that Carl Felvis may be struggling for pace because of the weight, and of course, that will affect his long-run pace. They're both a bit deep into the shell hairpin, but that camber really catches you if you do that, so you can get away with it. But yeah, you can visibly see now that gap between the top three closing. In fact, Elliot Dalton-Ayres in the same shot now as these two, and Felvis is sideways out of the Britain chicane. I wonder if he's maybe overusing his tyres a bit to try and get these lap times out of a car that is carrying so much weight.
Yeah, well, that's going to be something we're probably going to see within the last 5 minutes really affect them. But Joel Lask absolutely launching it over that little bump as Nicky Taylor gets past Jay Warren as well. So Jay Warren really struggling here. He's running up currently in the championship, but he may well get overtaken by Josh Martin, who's going to go up the inside of Druids, and a lovely little move there. It's gone from bad to worse this lap by Jay Warren.
Yeah, it has, down to 6th place now, so Jay Warren, I think, was in 6th, wasn't he, before he made that late improvement in qualifying, so maybe that was a bit of a blip, and this is now his genuine pace. Look at this, though. Joel Lask almost pushing Carl Felvis across the line. He's going to look to the inside line, and Old Hall Corner commits to the manoeuvre, and Carl Felvis might have to leave the door open. He does. He's out wide over the curb, but thankfully they managed to avoid contact. This is the big advantage, though, Jack, I think, that Joel Lask has got in this battle, because Kyle Felvis cannot afford, realistically, to get turned around here. So if Lask really commits to a lunge, safe in the knowledge, of course, that it's only his teammate behind him as well, Carl Felvis might have no choice, really, but to move aside.
Well, the problem is, earlier in the race, I'd have said that Kyle probably wouldn't have minded that at all, but now he's got Elliot Dalton-Ayres, so if he moves aside, he's likely to lose 2 places, and then he's only finishing a couple ahead of Warren. Now, Warren being overtaken by Nicky Taylor and Josh Martin is a massive help for him. in this situation. But with Joel Lask and Elliot Dalton as being teammates, well, actually, we don't know whether they'll end up working together, do we? We theorised this last week and wondered what they're going to do as they go down towards Knickerbrook. It's going to be Dalton Ayres to look around the outside of Joel Lask. Is that the most sensible thing in the world or the most stupid thing in the world you've ever seen, Andy? Carl Felvers gets a massive, massive break.
Well, I don't think it was that smart, to answer your question. No. Certainly an ambitious move. I think maybe Dalton Ayres was thinking that since it's his teammate, and he is in more championship contention than his teammate is, that Joel might go easy on him. But Joel Lask has never once gone easy on anyone, let alone a teammate. Just ask Scott Bugner. So I don't think Elliot Dalton Ayres should be expecting anything other than that, really. They kept it clean, but it's really now hurt them both, because not only has Dalton Ayres dropped back, but Joel Lask 1.3 seconds now adrift of the race leader Carl Felvers, was 1.2 seconds slower on that lap alone. Meanwhile, Nicky Taylor sits in fourth position, gets a huge amount of oversteer going through Old Hall Corner. Do you know, I enjoyed Vallelunga, I really did, but it's a very smooth, very wide, quite straightforward looking track. It's nice to see the drivers having to work for it tonight, isn't it?
It looks like Nicky is actually sort of quite tensed up, doesn't it, really? He's so sort of normally, I wouldn't say he's relaxed when he's driving, Nicky Taylor, but he always seems a little bit in control. That one seemed a bit like, okay, I'm holding on to this a little bit, struggling. As Josh Martin, probably struggling a little bit as well. Now look at the concentration. Normally he's all fun, he's all jokes and everything, but now he's looking a little bit more tense as he goes through the chicane. It is difficult, Andy. It's one of the best tracks for a reason, and that is because it's so challenging and so rewarding when you get it right. That's why spectators like it as well, because it forces a lot of mistakes, like we've mentioned quite a few times already. But as they go through these sort of complex, you can see Josh Martin, he relaxes, and all of a sudden he sort of tenses up because he knows the bumps are coming. He knows the turning point is coming. As they go through Druids, I'm sure you'll see him just trying to hold on to the car again. There's not going to be much smooth about this, I don't think. Although, to be fair, his turning input there, he just got to the apex of the turn. That was really nicely done by Josh Martin. Very smooth.
You can see there the force feedback that he was having to fight, though, as he turned through that right-hander. That was fascinating stuff. Josh Martin wearing quite a few layers tonight, I think, was perhaps feeling a bit chilly. If he was feeling the chill at the start of the night, I think he's worked up a bit of a sweat now, working hard to try and gain some ground, but a solid 5th place at the moment. Looks like it might go his way. Ben Smith, meanwhile, after his slightly odd tussle with Paul Laramie earlier on, is now stretching the margin. Laramie, of course, went off at Old Hall Corner, and Ben Smith flirts with disaster coming out of Knickerbrook Corner too. That's not the line to be taking. Paul Laramie taking it much easier, but that perhaps is why he's 5.5 seconds back. That coupled with the grassy moment that he had at Old Hall earlier on. There he is, though, looks not too bothered by the whole situation, leans into the corner there at Druids as he tries to carry good speed towards the end of the lap. It's Kenny Press, by the way, up into 3rd place. It was Chris Blakey running in 3rd earlier on within the Caymans, but he's had a drama somewhere, so Kenny Press sits in 3rd position. Now, Kenny has not had a podium yet. In fact, he missed the last 2 weeks. He has a best finish so far of 5th in class, and we do have 7 cars in the Cayman class tonight, so if he can get on the podium in this one, Jack, that would be quite an achievement.
Yeah, it'll be quite nice for him, won't it? It will be, I think Milner has been able to put in a fair few more. He's been in every round, hasn't he? I'm pretty sure. Sam Milner. No, yes, he has. He has, actually. So for Kenny Press to be beating him is a fairly impressive feat, because obviously Kenny maybe not driven the car quite as much as Sam Milner and a few of the others. Here is the battle. Actually, no, it's not a battle quite yet, is it? Because Carl Felder's just getting through some back markers. That's John Jones. It's Joel Lask's attempt to try and catch back up. I wonder what the discussion was between himself and Elliot Dalton Ayres as they came out and Knickerbrook and through Druids. They have managed to catch up to the back, but they have lost about 3 or 4 minutes there, haven't they, of attempted overtaking time. And I thought, actually, that Joel Lask could miss his braking zone. Actually, he's got it pretty much nailed on through Cascades.
The rate at which they've caught Carl, again, I know it took them a couple of laps, but still, they were, well, Joel was best part of a 2.5 back, and look, he's right back with him now, so that demonstrates the speed advantage that the Phoenix Sim Racing drivers got. Rolls into the corner beautifully there, almost up to the back of Carl Felvers' car. If this was NASCAR, I think he'd have tried the bump and run there, but that would very much not go down that well if he were to do it tonight. But again, look, carries the speed. The change of direction there, Jack, you can really see it. Joel's car changing direction so much better than Carl Felvers' car, and that has to be down to the ballast.
Yeah, absolutely. The ballast, and also just the way you hit those curbs. Oh, big moment. He's caught it brilliantly, to be fair to Joel Lask. You can understand why the drivers were potentially, that was a talking point, because it just looked like a very rough ride through there, doesn't it? As they go in towards Druids now, hard on the brakes, down a gear or two, throw it into the first apex, make sure you nail the second apex. That's the more important one. Lovely run off with Joel Lask here. Tell you what, he's driving this superbly. He's even looking at the inside of Lodge Corner. Andy, that's a little bit too far back, isn't it? Something was always going to be tapped around. The problem is you tap around a rear-wheel drive car, they're never recovering, and you're probably going to end up with a penalty, aren't you? But you can see just how quick Joel Lask is. He's absolutely electric as Felvis and the rest of them now catch under a GT4 and a lunge up the inside through on Hull and contact with Joel Lask and Carl Felvis as they're stuck behind the GT4.
Oh my word, and the GT4 goes off the road to get out of the way, almost makes contact with Dalton Ayres, but that was a pinch point. I could see it coming. They'd caught the back marker at a really awkward moment, and Felvis was just wrong-footed for a moment. Lask saw his chance, but there was, I think, contact on the apex. Felvis certainly feels there was, because he was flashing his lights in anger there at the race leader, Joel Lask. So Lask goes through, but that may well be discussed post-race. Out of the shell hairpin they go. The question now is whether or not Felvis can come back at him. I think he's going to try, based on that little clip that we saw of him there gesticulating in the car, and he's certainly closing in. It's amazing how if you rattle a driver, Jack, they can sometimes find a bit more speed.
Yeah, well, it's easier to chase, isn't it? I think if we were doing TikToks and we were cutting these up into shorts, it would be quite an entertaining one, that one, wouldn't it? But it is great driving. Well, sorry, it's not great driving. I'll say it's a great spectacle for us here. Elliot Dalton Ayres has got a great view of it as well. And to be fair, for the GT4, I don't think he could have really done much. He's told to stay on his racing line. The closing speed and the intensity of the GT3s is not his problem. He needs to stay on his racing line, because if he moved out the way and he accidentally hit one of them massively, then that would have been really bad. It's the fact that maybe Joel Lask sort of tried to take advantage of it and obviously then made contact. If he hadn't made contact, we'd be saying, oh, great opportunistic move. There's the contact. That's the thing that the stewards are going to have to look into, I think, a little bit. But you know what? We'll leave that to them. For now, Carl Felvis is running second. They're both still on the track. They're both still on the circuit scoring points. And for Felvis, that's the most important thing.
Oh, blimey, Felvis is on it, isn't he? I seem to recall you using the exact same words to describe a lunge from the very same driver a couple of seasons ago. It's a recurring theme, isn't it? But, I mean, you've got to go for it. When you see half a chance around here, you've kind of got to go for it. And Joel had seen that back marker coming. They caught it at the perfect place as far as he was concerned. And it was just enough to leave that door open. And now he's gone through. He's starting to pull away. So Joel Lask, who's never been here to make friends, it must be said, he's going to be very, very happy, I'm sure, to now have a chance to pull away out in front. Felvis dropping back slightly and perhaps now becoming a bit more concerned with what Elliot Dalton Ayres is doing behind him. And of course, that little exchange has allowed Nicky Taylor to close in, and Josh Martin within a second of him too. So top 5 cars now almost within the same shot as they round Knickerbrook and head over Clay Hill. 7 minutes of this race still to go, Jack, as well. So there is time yet for this to change again.
I think the thing that looks most likely to happen right now is the Dalton Ayres on Felvis battle, rather than the Felvis on Lask reigniting. If Lask can actually get his head down and put in the sort of time and the sort of driving that he was doing catching up to Felvis, but in the race lead, he should pull away from this one a little bit. But Dalton Ayres latching right onto the back of the gearbox of Felvis, that's going to be the interesting thing. I think it's actually done Felvis a little bit of a favour to drop off Lask, because it might give him a couple of laps to calm down. Because ultimately, he will be annoyed. I can understand why he'd be annoyed. And a driver's worst enemy is sometimes themselves, isn't it? When they get into their own head, especially around a track like Oulton Park, and you start overdriving the car.
Exactly, and of course there may yet be opportunities for him to come back at last, because look, there's more back markers now up the road, so every time they catch one of these GT4 Caymans, it presents an opportunity, although on this occasion the car sort of gets out of the way. Sam Milner, is that maybe that they're putting a lap down now, and they head up towards the Britain chicane, and it's Dalton Ayres now who loses out. But this is a factor of multi-class racing, particularly at a place like Oulton Park, Jack. You just have to accept that you will lose time in traffic. At some point, you're going to catch a car in an inopportune place, and you're going to lose a second, perhaps. There's no point being overly aggressive and trying to force the issue. You've just got to take the hit and hope that the racing gods shine back down on you again a bit later on in the race.
Yeah, it's a skill unto itself, the fact that getting through the traffic. Some drivers can time it perfectly. The best drivers in the world will time it perfectly. If you see the Nürburgring 24-hour or the Spa 24s or anything like that, you'll find that you don't even realize that they're overtaking anybody, because they know exactly where to slow themselves up to time it to overtake people, and they'll see it coming. And obviously they've got people in their ears telling them about where certain drivers are and how far you've got, and then they'll work it out themselves. But yeah, ultimately it's a skill, and it's not just the fastest drivers out there. And if they get in your way, it's their fault, because it absolutely isn't. They're trying to drive their race. It's up to you to get around them. That's the thing that gets driven home to them on the drivers' briefing, week in and week out. And it's also worth noting that it's not a difference between sim racing and real life racing as well. Andy, you've commentated on the British GT for many years now. GT3s and GT4s get in each other's way. It's just a fact.
It's always a bone of contention, especially at a circuit like Oulton, because, yeah, the GT4 cars can't vanish. They've got to go around the corner, and they can't be expected to drive off the road to get out of the way of the GT3s. It's down to the quicker cars, the drivers of the quicker cars, to make the overtake safely, and you've sometimes just got to accept that you're not going to get past them as soon as you catch them. You're going to have to sit behind them for a corner or two and just take the hit. But that little knot of Cayman traffic that they did just pass has actually had the effect of slightly separating now this leading group. The lead gap over a second now between Lask and Felvis. Felvis is then 3/4 of a second clear of Elliott Daltonaires, and actually that's the closest battle now, really. Daltonaires and Taylor, third and fourth, running almost nose to tail. So Nicky Taylor just sort of slowly but surely starting now to arrive at the party. It might be a bit too little too late, but if he gets a whiff of a podium here, Nicky's going to want to take it, because remember, he's only 2 points clear of Daltonaires in 5th place in the points, so that's quite a significant battle, actually.
It is indeed, yeah. I was just actually having a look at, while you were sort of talking about that, I was having a look at Jay Warren. Where's he gone, sort of thing. But he is in 6th place still. His lap before, I think he's struggling with inconsistency. So the lap he's just finished was a second slower than Josh Martin. But the lap before, he was 8/10 quicker than Josh Martin. So he's very much struggling with the consistency as it stands. And there's therefore sort of stuck in 6th position. Sorry, as I'm hiccuping, as I'm talking, which is always helpful as a commentator. Yeah, so I don't know whether it's because of the traffic. Maybe that's why he's lost 2 seconds on that lap. But ultimately, he's not really in any position to make any kind of move.
No, not for the time being. This gap coming down, though, and so Carl Felvis is going to have maybe a bit of defending to do yet before the end of the race. Daltonaires again getting much better exit speed there from the Britain chicane, heads over Hilltop, drops down into Knickerbrook corner, past the entrance to the Knickerbrook chicane. It still looks slightly jarring, that, doesn't it, for people who aren't used to watching this version of the circuit being used in real life. And then they're in a flash out of Knickerbrook and heading back up over Clay Hill, where Elliott Daltonaires is definitely now starting to become a bit of a problem. Beautiful four-wheel drift there for Elliott going into Druids. Didn't lose too much speed on the exit. Does that now mean he's close enough to have a little sniff up the inside? He's going to look, but Carl Felvis late enough on the brakes. As long as he makes the apex, he will hang on to 2nd place for now. Drifts a bit wide, but these three, Jack, getting closer and closer and closer by the corner, and we've still got 2 laps left.
Yeah, I think we're starting to understand what Carl Felvis meant when he came in after qualifying and said that he pulled that lap out of the bag, because I don't think he has the consistent lap pace to really be a pole sitter, but he had the one flying lap, and that's all that counts in qualifying, so fair play to him. But in the race, it's a lot more difficult. If you're going to put in a qualifying performance like he did, Oulton Park is the place you want to do it. If you do it in Donington or something like that, you're probably going to get overtaken within 3 or 4 laps. He's got a lot better chance of holding on to the position. And if it wasn't for that, obviously, backmarkery sort of issue and the contact potentially, then he may well be on for a race win right now instead of 2nd place. But 2nd is still not bad when in terms of championship competitors, all a lot further behind him.
Daltonaires throwing it through Britons, and look, Felvis had a bit of a snap of oversteer, so Daltonaires couldn't be any closer. Now he tried the outside down here on his teammate earlier on in the race, tries to get to the outside from the inside. That's not going to work, and Carl Felvis will hang on. Daltonaires now, he's the one with the snap of oversteer, and that means Nicky Taylor starts looking interested in snatching 3rd place away from him. This might be Carl Felvis' salvation, actually, if Nicky Taylor starts distracting Daltonaires, who again sends it into Druids. Full commitment there, but Nicky Taylor is on the attack.
Well, we know Nicky's not shy about going forwards, is he? He's going to have a look if the opportunity arises. He loves a little bit of a move, doesn't Nicky Taylor? And he'd always like to get into the commentary box and tell us about it afterwards as well. So it's going to be interesting to see if we do end up having a chat with him, or Elliott Daltonaires, or Josh Martin, if it all goes horribly wrong, of course, a little bit further back. But at the moment, Daltonaires, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He's looking forward. He wants to move as Ben Smith is forced out the way by Joel Lask. To be fair, I remember being quite slow in the GT4 Super Cup, and we had, oh my God, who won the championship that year? Very quick driver, races for Porsche now. Harry King. fly through me and not kill like I wasn't even there, sort of thing. He would just dive me and he just moved me out the way. And he didn't lose any lap time, and that's the way that drivers do it, isn't it? It's the forceful nature of timing when you're going to do it and being decisive about it. That's exactly what Joel Last just did.
Oh, but Carl Felvis, I think, is about to lose some lap time because he's caught Ben Smith at the worst moment. Look, on the exit of Britain's again, so he just about got away with it, but it has bunched them all together as they head down to Knickerbrook for the final time. As Dalton Ayres going to try and get up the inside. Surely not, he's too far back. Is he going to try and get to the inside line? He has!
No.
Door-to-door contact, and through will come Nicky Taylor, surely. Felvis out onto the grass, surely. He didn't manage to close the door on Taylor. I think he almost did, but no, Taylor has the run, and Nicky Taylor has gone from 4th to 2nd, just like that, but now he's out wide. Dalton Ayres back on the inside. Felvis stuck in the middle. This is an absolute barnstorming battle for 2nd place. Joel Lask is going to get the win, but the championship leader could find himself off the podium altogether. Out of Lodge Corner goes Joel Lask. It's been a fighting drive for him, and he will claim the victory here at Oulton Park. Nicky Taylor a sensational 2nd, and Dalton Ayres is 3rd. Elliot Dalton Ayres gets himself back into 3rd position, and Felvis is down to 4th. He is not going to be pleased with that. 2 very robust moves made on him, and on both occasions he ended up losing out. That was fantastic stuff to watch, though, I have to say, from a neutral perspective. But Kyle Felvis losing some valuable championship points. Nicky Taylor in the right place at the right time. There went Paul Laramie, by the way. He's finished 2nd place in the Cayman class. Ben Smith already crossing the line to claim the victory in the Cayman class. And we've just had a change, actually, for 3rd place, because Milner has got himself ahead of Kenny Press. Kenny Press, I think, has gone off the road. And so Sam Miller, yes, there he is, the last corner. No, Kenny, what have you done? From 3rd place, he spun at the very last corner of the race. And Sam Milner gets himself into 3rd place in the Cayman GT4 class. Well, there is a lot to unpack after that. We need a couple of minutes, I think, just to gather our thoughts. We'll be back in a couple to chat to our podium finishers. Well, there were those who said we wouldn't get much side-by-side racing if we came and raced Porsches at Oulton Park, but as always here at the VRRC, it seems we've proved the doubters wrong with our first race of the evening. A fantastic battle at the front of the Cup class anyway, and in the end, the victory goes the way in race 1 of Joel Lask, and Joel will join us now in the commentary box to talk us through what was a fantastic battle between yourself and Carl Felvis. You were stuck behind him for a lot of that race, Joel, finally able to make the move in traffic. Talk us through it from your perspective.
Yeah, that was a tough one. It's not easy to overtake around here, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I saw the traffic coming up and I was hoping it was going to slow him down a little bit. I see Elliot coming up, he was pretty quick. And then, yeah, we all just got caught up in the traffic on T1 and that was it. The move was there. So we sent it, but yeah, that was a tough old slog.
First victory of the season as well. Is it fair to say it's taken you a bit of time to wrap your head around the Porsche?
Yeah, I'm not great in these cars. For some reason, this tractor seems to hook up, and I'm pretty quick around it. But race pace has still got a little bit to be admired. But yeah, we'll get there.
Look good enough to me, Joel. Congratulations on the race victory. Best of luck for race 2.
Appreciate it.
So Joel Lask gets the victory. Jack, about to chat to our 2nd place finisher, who 2 or 3 corners from home, Jack, wasn't even going to be on the podium.
Yeah, Nicky Taylor, I'll be honest, I didn't think I'd be speaking to you in the 2nd place. Maybe 3rd, I thought, given that late sort of push in the last sort of 7 or 8 minutes. But wow, talk us through your last half a lap.
Yeah, I knew from about 10 minutes to go that there was going to be a chance for me, even if I was within like a second and a half on the last lap, because the way Kyle and Elliot and Joel, to be fair, for most of it, were fighting, and then Joel broke away, obviously. But yeah, the way they were fighting, I knew something was going to happen. But yeah, so I went into the bumpy right-hander, and Elliot kind of made a half choice move down the inside, and then it turned into a full move. And then both, obviously, Elliot and Kyle went wide, and I thought, oh, I'll have this, and just tried and stuck 2 wheels on the grass and hoped it didn't like spin. But yeah, I was alongside Kyle, and I had full faith in Kyle not taking me out. Obviously, as we're teammates in this championship. But yeah, and then got a little bit of a hit up the rear from Elliot, so nearly went off. But yeah, yeah, a lot better in that one compared to quali, because quali was, in all honesty, one of my worst quali performances I think I've ever done. But yeah, race was good.
I was going to say it ended up being quite entertaining towards the end of it, but did it give us a bit of a taste of what race 2 is gonna be? Because surely that's gonna be a bit of a bum fight, isn't it? Trying to get through these GT4s. If you've finally been able to find the pace in yourself in race 1, is it quite frustrating in race 2 is going to be reverse grid?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one who hates Oulton from the get-go anyway. I think this is the worst track in the UK. I do not
Right,
like this
cut him
track
off,
at all.
cut him
I
off.
do not like this track at all. But yeah, it's always hard around Oulton because it's tight. But yeah, it's just gonna be the same as any other reverse grid. It's gonna be, I'd assume, pretty much identical to Croft with reverse grid, tight first corner. Gonna see how people go, but obviously the difference with this and Croft is it's a decent bit wide. That wide for a GT3, like you struggle to fit too wide for it, but yeah, we'll see what we can do and hopefully make some moves.
Well, it was entertaining towards the end there. Nicky gave us something to shout about. Oh, Andy almost losing his voice. Thank you very much for coming and having a chat to us. You never know, we'll speak to you after race 2.
Please so.
Right then, I'm really hopeful our third place driver is going to show us some love for Oulton Park. Elliot, you like this place, don't you?
Yeah, I do like this place. I don't like the bump at the fast right at the back of the track. But yeah, I like this track. Not as much as Croft though.
Oh, whatever. Yeah, third place, decent result, but you were in contention there for second place for a little while. It just didn't quite go your way on the last lap, did it?
No, I mean, I saw that me and Kyle were stuck behind one of the GT4s, and it slowed him down through the chicane, and I got quite a good run. So we got past the GT4, and I sort of moved to the right, saw that there was a gap, and sort of went for it. I mean, I think we did go door to door for a second or two, and then Nicky comes and makes it 3 wide, and then I think he got past me, went round the outside of Kyle, and then Kyle broke. So then I went to the inside of Kyle, and it all just got a bit scruffy.
Well, out of the scruffiness, at least you're able to net a third place finish. A solid start to the night, Elliot, and we'll see how you get on in race 2.
Cheers.
So they were your top 3 in the Cup class. Jack, though, about to catch up with our race winner from the Caymans, who I think has a few stories to tell after that one, Jack.
Yeah, I'm still reeling by the fact that Elliot Dalton has just said that he prefers Croft to Oulton Park
Well,
or whatever.
quite.
Anyway, yes, I'm speaking to a race winner yet again in Ben Smith, but Ben, that wasn't anywhere near as easy as it was last week or the last couple of weeks, was it? Talk us through your race, because we didn't see your race start, which I think looked pretty eventful.
Yeah, the start was fine, but then I got sort of 3/4 of the way around the lap and just had a moment and just didn't brake. So I ended up putting 2 wheels on the grass, and then Paul got past. And then for the next couple of laps, we were going back and forth, and then he made a mistake. So I was able to then get in front and then thankfully pull away. But I think he must have made a few more mistakes behind, because that certainly wasn't on pace, the gap.
Yeah, I was going to say, we ended up seeing you give the place back, then Laramie threw it off. We'll get his side of the story in a minute. What was all that about?
I'm not really sure. Well, on one, I think the last corner, he made a massive send down the inside, so fair play. And then I got him back on T1, and I think that's when he went wide, and then ultimately the gap grew. But really good fun. That's the first bit of racing we've properly had, so I'm all for it.
Well, it looked very entertaining to us. Unfortunately, because you're the GT4s, we've ended up running out of time a little bit, Ben. But big congratulations on the eventful race, and obviously a race win. And you never know, we might speak to you a little later.
Indeed. Maybe see you in a bit.
Hope so. Ben Smith, congratulations on another class win. But as he just said, Paul Larrabee really gave him a fight this time. Paul, your view on what on earth was going on there?
I think in the words of Joel Lask, the move was on at one point. But yeah, I made it going right into turn one, went a bit wide. And the problem is when you go on the grass, to stop it spinning, you have to take so much speed off, and the gap just created a nice spannet coming out the last corner later in the race. So that's what created the big gap towards the end. But I enjoyed Oulton.
Finally.
Challenge.
At last, someone who gets it. Thank you, Paul. I thought you would. A bit frustrating, though, because the pace is there tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, pace is there. Need to not make mistakes would be the answer, I think.
Easier said than done, isn't it? But well done anyway. More points scored for second place. Best of luck for race 2, Paul.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers, mate. Bye.
And finally, another last lap change of position for third place, Jack.
Yeah, Sam, congratulations on getting that third place. It looked like it wasn't going to happen at one point, but obviously Kenny Press having a bit of a spin at the last corner meant you sort of inherited it. How does it feel?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I was having a great battle with Kenny in the first half of the race. Then the second half of the race, I didn't really see anyone. And then yeah, that's news to me. You're telling me what happened with Kenny. I wasn't sure whether he ran out of fuel or something like that. I didn't see it, but yeah, great to get on the podium.
I was going to say, you've been not shy of the podium either over the past couple of rounds, have you? In the first round particularly, and obviously last week, and in fact round 2 actually, you got on the podium in race 1s and 2s, reverse grids or not. So is it a case of you trying to take that step up? What's the next step to try and catch up to the likes of Laramie and Smith on pace?
Well, I think it's the pace I need to work on. I'm feeling a lot more consistent as the championship goes on. So I think it's just a case of getting more practice and getting quicker through the week to catch up to the guys.
Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for coming in and having a chat, Sam, to us. Good luck for race 2 and try and avoid those pesky GT3s.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, there you go then. 6 drivers, all with interesting tales to tell after our first race of the night, and it is now time to move in to the first grid race. And Jack, I think you summed it up best there. You said that little skirmish that we saw at the end of race number 1 is possibly a sign of things to come, because yes, it's difficult to overtake here. Yes, it's difficult to run side by side, but you do frequently see these little bottlenecks, don't you, where it all kind of gets a bit congested, and that can cause some action. And of course, we stick those GT4 cars at the front of the grid, and we're guaranteed to get some of those bottlenecks right from the start.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm surprised that you said that I've summed up something correctly. I can't believe it. For once, I've done it right. It's amazing, isn't it? I'm finally a compliment in this broadcast booth. Anyway, yes, I think it's going to be a bit hectic. I think it's going to be a struggle. The GT4s, if I was a GT4, I'd be trying to not move out the way completely, but I would be certainly sort of wary of it.
Yes, stand well back, everyone. This could get messy into the first corner. A relatively short run down to turn 1. It is Stokes and Jones on the front row of the grid. Will they survive the run through Old Hall Corner, though? Let's find out. Away they go. Keep an eye to Laramie and Smith further back. Ben Smith almost in the pit wall, and Jay Warren's on the grass on the other side of the road. But Stokes will retain the advantage for now. But then he goes straight off the road and heads for the barriers. Don't spin back into the road. There's a spin further back. Is that Felvers? It is. Felvers is off. Martin is off as well. Off 2 goes Stokes, but the championship leader, Kyle Felvers, was off the road and pointing the wrong way in the background. Who has emerged as the leader in the Cayman class, I think, is Andy Carroll, down in about 5th place or so, with Jay Warren, who was on the grass going into turn 1, running second in the class. But Jack, we predicted drama at turn 1, and unfortunately it has bitten the championship leader.
Yeah, Chris Blakey going very wide through Shell hairpin as well, trying to get that switch on John Jones. It hasn't happened yet, but look at all the GT3 cars queuing up behind the GT4s. If you're going to be sensible about this, you'd wait until after the chicane, because everybody's going to have to wait anyway. Some people just go straight on. Some people just decided to stage exit left. It's absolutely ridiculous right now, but this is where the GT3 should be getting past, but of course they were all trying to do it in the chicane, therefore no one's actually close enough, apart from Jay Warren, who goes through into second place overall and leader of the GT3s.
Jay Warren, how about that? To the lead of the class, so he found a way past Andy Carroll in all of that. Carroll is trying to burst through in the background. Look, John Jones still leads the race, but he's on the grass going into Druids. That's not the best way through the turn, and there's another spin further back. Who was that going around? That might have been Chris Blakey, I think. One of the Caymans has just shot out into the gravel trap. John Jones almost led the entirety of the first lap, but it is Jay Warren who will bring them out of Lodge Corner as the race leader. Carroll is there in second place. Third place is Joel Lask. with Nicky Taylor 4th and Elliot Altonair's 5th. So those three already resuming their tremendous battle from race 1. But I'm fascinated now, Jack, to see what Jay Warren can do. This could be a crucial race for his championship hopes. Felvers down the order, and Warren's got clear track in front of him.
He needs to take advantage of this. This is absolutely massive. I'm curious as to know whether he's actually got anybody telling him about how Felvers' race has gone. But actually, Felvers, he's pointing in the right direction, isn't he, actually? It's not like he's completely out of this race. He's in 7th place, and he's not a million miles off. Now, we've seen he's got half-decent race pace. Oh, is that Sandy Carroll? That's not going to stop. The car's not going to stop. Oh, my God. If that was real life, the car would be absolutely nowhere near stopping there. That would be absolutely terrifying. But he's managed to get around the corner and not crashed into anybody, which is an absolute blessed relief. But yes, I was about to say that Carl Felvers really not that far back. He could fight through the likes of Josh Martin. He's probably got a score to settle with Dalton Ayres. Nicky Taylor, a teammate, in between Joel Laskin and Dalton Ayres. This is set up pretty well.
For the neutral, yes. Definitely. Looking forward to this one. Jay Warren doing his best to escape all of this drama that Jack is sort of teeing up for us here and trying to keep the ball in his weight. But of course, we've seen in the past reverse grid races, they favour Warren in some ways because that period of the race where he sometimes struggles on cold tyres, well, everyone's sort of stuck on top of each other anyway, so it doesn't really hurt him, and then he can get to the front and pull away. So let's see if that's what he's able to do. Now, are we following John Jones because he's the leader of the Cayman class? I think we are, aren't we? John Jones has survived all of the drama. He almost outbreaks himself as I say that, but John Jones leads the way by 4.4 seconds over Kenny Press 2nd and Sam Milner 3rd. Ben Smith is 4th and Paul Laramie only 6th. There is Smith, look in the background. This is the battle for 2nd place in that class, but Kenny Press, who squandered that opportunity for a podium in race number 1, has got another crack at it now, Jack.
I love that you're surprised at focusing on John Jones as bordering on insulting, I think, to be honest.
Not surprised, Jack. Not surprised.
But yeah, he is leading. I have to say, I wanted to sympathise before we went to the advert break for Kenny Press. I've been in the wall he ended up in, not on the last lap, but in a practice session, and it's not a nice one to be in. So yeah, I feel for him there. That is a difficult corner to exit, especially if you get a little bit too greedy on the power, and of course, that is very easy to do at Oulton Park, especially on the last lap when you're potentially going to be getting a podium that maybe you haven't had for a while. So, yeah, bit of a shame. As Taylor and Dalton Ayres are due to do battle. And I think Taylor ends up running a little bit wide due to the fact that Dalton Ayres made him go on the defensive. But Dalton Ayres is lining up the inside of Clay Hill, but that's going to be the outside. Someone's in the wall over there. Kenny Press again. But that's going to be the outside for Druids. How are they going to end up? It's Dalton Ayres, who I think is in 3rd place. Taylor has ended up in 4th, and Joel Laskell in 3rd. Yes, Dalton Ayres did manage to get the move around Druid as Josh Martin goes for a nibble on Nicky Taylor.
I'm sure Josh Martin was in the wall at turn 1. I may have got that wrong. Maybe it was another green car. Taylor coming back at him either way now. And of course, Carl Felvers, the next one behind them. This could get tasty. Out of Old Hall Corner, they're about to go still side by side. Martin hangs on round the outside. Taylor actually the one who loses momentum. And here comes Felvers up the inside of him. That's the outside for Cascades. But it matters not because Felvers has made the move before they get to the left-hander. And that was a brilliant reading of the situation. Much the same, actually, as what Nicky Taylor did to Carl Felvers and Elliot Alton Ayres on the last lap of race 1. He saw that situation developing in front of him and figured out a way to take advantage.
Well, Taylor said that he trusted Felvers not to hit him if he was going to go for the challenge, and I think Felvers just repaid the favour, didn't he? It was sort of as teammates for this particular championship, they trusted each other not to end up going into the wall, and that's exactly, Felvers ended up coming out on top this time round, but Josh Martin somewhat getting away with that, and it's the problem when you're in the middle of a three-way battle, isn't it, Andy? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're going to shoot for the king, you've got to kill him, because if you don't, you end up going backwards yourself.
Wow, this is getting very highbrow now. We've gone from references to chess references. I'm very impressed, Jack. Over Clay Hill they go, and Carl Felvers, back in the top 5. If you'd have told Carl Felvers about 6 minutes ago that he was going to be running in 5th place at this stage of the race, I think he'd have probably taken that and still genuinely has a shot at the win. Now, does John Jones have a shot at the win? Well, yes, technically, but he has got a rapidly approaching Ben Smith. The last time I mentioned Ben Smith, he was 4th in class. He is now 2nd in class and closing in rapidly on the class leader. Now, we know, Jack, that John Jones is not always the easiest of drivers to overtake, but there's no doubt who the quicker of the two is right now, and it has to be advantage Ben Smith in this situation.
Yeah, you would expect it, wouldn't you? Even a decent exit. He doesn't need to lunge anybody going into any of the corners. He's that good off for the corners. he can just try and get some momentum, and I think that's maybe what he's trying to do. Look at how much extra road he uses. The car is forced out that wide, whereas John Jones, he's maybe half a car length on the inside of the circuit. That shows he's not going as quick. As they go into the corner, into the first corner, sorry, it's going to be Jones, but look at how on edge that Smith is. He's absolutely desperate to get past. He doesn't care that he's got 18 minutes left and he's easily the faster car. He's doing everything in his power to try and get past as quickly as possible. And they have got Craig Curtis just behind, who's going to maybe have a little bit of a headache here, because as they go down towards the island bend, it's going to be Smith on the inside. They're making a two-way car block. Jones just about holds on to the white line. Curtis finds a way through. He's breathing a sigh of relief. John Jones is breathing a sigh of relief. And Andy McEwen is getting his breath back.
I would have put money there on John Jones getting fired into the barriers. I don't quite know how he managed to gather the car together. Ben Smith gave him a real hip check there as they exited Island Bend. And I love the way that Ben, having seen Craig Curtis come up behind him, made no effort to stay out of the way. Just into the inside and committed to the move. But hey, they're fighting for track position. He's not actually being lapped by Craig Curtis, so absolutely no obligation to get out of his way. Right, at the front of the field, this lead gap coming down pretty rapidly now. Joel Lask has managed to work his way into second place. So obviously had that brilliant race win in race 1, and now here he is running second place and clearly quicker than Jay Warren, the leader. So history repeating itself a bit here for Joel Lask. He must be feeling quite confident that a double victory could go his way. Of all the tracks, Jack, where we might have seen our first double victory of the season, Oulton Park would not have been high on the list of places that was likely to happen.
Absolutely not. No, it wouldn't have been the bookies' best bet, would it? Dalton Ayres, though, he's just put the fastest lap of the race in, I believe, a 30.42. It's 4 tenths quicker than Joel Lask. And those two are arguably, apart from Andy Carroll, to be fair to him, are the only drivers in the 30s. Everybody else is in the 31s. So, yeah, the Phoenix Sim racers going very, very quickly indeed. Whatever they've attached to their car, nitrous or anything else, is certainly working for them, isn't it? Because they are a lot faster than everybody else on the circuit right now.
A bull bar, I think, based on what we've seen from the racing so far. They've certainly been wasting no time in making progress through the field. Josh Martin now under threat from another driver who's tried to make some progress, that being Kyle Felvers, who's almost pushing him into Druid's corner. But again, you get that close to another car, you inevitably then lose momentum through the apex, and he's got to watch out because Nicky Taylor isn't far behind. Felvers looks to the inside, Martin's late on the brakes and manages to get into the corner still ahead. This, remember, is the fight for 4th place. Over the elite they go, and Josh Martin just about hanging on. We've got 3 for the lead, as Dalton Ayres has very much caught up now to Jay Warren and Joel Lask, and 3 of them fighting over 4th place. Typical reverse grid stuff, this, Jack. You don't know where to look.
Yeah, this is the headache that Rich has got on the broadcast, isn't it? It's which battle to go for. Do you go for the lead of the race, or do you go for the championship leader? They're in 2 separate battles right now. Hopefully, if we keep an eye on the front the front battle, then we might be able to see what's happening behind them in the back of shot somewhere for the other battle as well. So have to keep an eye on that one. But we saw Elliot Dalton Ayres give it a bit of a flash of the lights to Lask. Is that a bit of an indication to say, I'm not going to challenge you, go forward, overtake him? Or is it an indication saying, I'm going to come through, move out my way? I don't know with these two, do we? It's complete guess.
I can be absolutely certain that regardless what it is, Joel Lask ain't paying a blind bit of notice to it, because he's very much preoccupied with finding a way past Jay Warren right now, and couldn't care less what his teammate's doing behind him. But I think Elliot Dalton Ayres is arguably the quicker of the 3. I think he arguably was in race 1, but just not quite able to capitalise on that. This is Andy Dorman, by the way. Oh, was that a lead change? Yes, it was. Jay Warren has lost the lead. He must have made a mistake coming out of Knickerbrook corner, and Joel Lask has gone through. So Lask managing to get his way through, and that was crucial because as in race 1, he's got the lead, but Dalton Ayres hasn't gone with him. So Jay Warren, unless he can come straight back at Joel Lask, I think he's now going to be stuck fighting for second place. Meanwhile, Kyle Felvers up the inside of Josh Martin and up the inside of a back marker. It's all kicked off at once, rather predictably, and Felvers goes 4th with Nicky Taylor now trying to follow suit.
Yeah, I think someone's sprinkled the chilies in the salad of the Subway here, because it's starting to spice up for us, and we're all here for it, to be honest. It's a nice little kick that we didn't expect here at Oulton Park. So it's Josh Martin right in the middle of the Nicky Taylor and Carl Felvers, and then all of a sudden it's Jay Warren in the middle of Joel Lask and Elliot Dalton Ayres as well. And just like race 1, Andy, we've got Joel Lask potentially breaking away as a slower driver in second place is holding up Elliot Dalton Ayres.
Indeed he is. Up through Island Bend they go then towards the right-hander at Shell, and Josh Martin carries the speed in, doesn't he? But Felvers can't really immediately break away, can he? So Josh Martin still presenting a little bit of a threat here as they hammer the curves through the Britain chicane and accelerate up over hilltop. Jay Warren's second place, meanwhile, is in jeopardy. Elliot Dalton Ayres, we know he doesn't mind a look up the inside at Knickerbrook Corner. Is he committed to it? He sort of did, and that was just enough to persuade Jay Warren that maybe the apex wasn't the place to be aiming at that moment. He ran a bit wide, he loses momentum, loses time to the race leader, but ultimately doesn't yet lose second position. Through it, the back of the car stepping out slightly, but Jay Warren hanging on for now.
Yeah, but only just hanging on, isn't it? I think that's the optimum phrasing. He's not in control of this at all. And look at the gap that's now been bled to Joel Lask as these two started fighting. Felvis versus Martin is starting to heat up as well as Nicky Taylor has just dropped off this little battle. Maybe he was looking up the inside of Josh Martin, couldn't quite get the move done, and ended up obviously falling away a little bit. But that's just opened the door a little bit to give Josh Martin a little bit of encouragement to look forward rather than backwards. You never know, these could reignite. We have got 12 minutes left. These are elongated 25-minute races, Andy. Certainly give people a lot more scope to be a bit more tactical about it.
And no one's complained that the races are too long yet, so I think we're getting away with this so far.
Touch wood, touch wood.
Yeah, 12 minutes to go. I think partly because the races have never at any point really felt dull, have they? There's always been action, and that extra 5 minutes makes a bit of a difference when it comes to tyre management and managing that ballast for the cars that have that extra weight on board. It's only 5 minutes, but it's an extra 2 or 3 laps in most races, and really does make a bit of a difference to how things play out. We saw that in race 1 with all of that action on the final lap, and this one looks set to go the same way. Now, Elliot Dalton Ayres tried the inside a lap or two ago down here. Now he's looking to the outside. Jay Warren takes a big bite out of the curb on the apex at Knickerbrook Corner, but doesn't unsettle the car too badly. Dalton Ayres, though, is going to try and get alongside. He's alongside, actually, as they head towards Druids. That's the outside line for Elliot. Jay Warren goes in too deep on the inside line. That now opens the door beautifully for Elliot Dalton Ayres. Brilliant racecraft that from the Phoenix Sim Racer, and I think he's about to make it a Phoenix Sim Racing 1-2. He slips up the inside at Lodge Corner, and that was a great example of how a little mistake at Knickerbrook led to an overtake 2 corners later.
Yeah, and I think Josh Martin, look at this, he's up the inside of Carl Felvis now as well, so both battles igniting on the same lap. Going into the first corner now, Josh Martin on the inside. Is Nicky Taylor going to try and take advantage of this again? Carl Felvis holds on to it, though, this time a little bit better as they go down towards Cascades. Felvis is going to be on the inside, but it's not going to be good enough, Andy. It's going to be Josh Martin back ahead of Kyle Felvis in the battle for 4th place, with Nicky Taylor still in 6th, wondering what he has to do to try and get through.
Oh, Kyle Felvis must be hating this. He did so much hard work to get past Josh Martin and then ended up giving it back away again. There is Kyle, looking as animated as always as he shifts his weight in the seat, turning into the Shell hairpin. And he's once again staring at the back of the Retry Racing Porsche and he's back down into 5th position. Nicky Taylor, though, is a friend of Kyle's, it must be said, so he's probably not going to be too antagonistic towards him. But of course, Nicky also trying to get himself properly back into title contention. The difference in facial expressions between the two of them. Nicky, dare I say, it looks very uninterested with what's going on. There we go, that's more like it. Bit of a snap of oversteer and he wakes up for Knickerbrook Corner. But Nicky Taylor, I don't think is on full attack mode right now.
No, I think if he was in real life, Carl, he definitely wouldn't look that relaxed either, would he? As Josh Martin with a bit of a drift. And to be fair, he never corrected his steering there. It's almost like he planned it, isn't it? He knew what was going to happen. But he also might know what's going to happen here, because I thought Carl Felvis was going to launch one at the inside, and has he actually? No, he's tricking the camera there. Oh, there's a lot of correction. No, Josh Martin shakes the head because now there must be a bit of an attack here around the outside. Carl Felvis is going to have it. It's just a dangerous move, Andy. You've seen this plenty of times in real life, and Carl Felvis thinks a lot better of it, thank goodness.
But there is no grip on the outside at Old Hall Corner. It's always been the case, and it's because there's that big compression in the middle, but the compression is steeper on the apex than it is on the outside. And now Felvis has got it all wrong at Cascade. So Taylor does go through. It's all unraveling suddenly for the championship leader. Kyle Felvis down into 6th position. I was about to point out that there's also traffic on the horizon, but we didn't need the traffic to create the action on this occasion. It was all kicking off anyway, and Josh Martin back into, or stays in 4th place, but now Taylor up into 5th, and Felvis 6th, with Andy Carroll now closing in behind them in 7th position. But Carl Felvis just looks a little out of sorts, doesn't he? Maybe a bit rattled after what happened in race 1. I think that's fair to say. But he's got to try and put that behind him. He's back up the inside of Nicky Taylor, and if that wasn't a sign that Nicky is willing to work with Carl Felvis, I don't know what is.
Nicky Taylor's front bumper looking a little bit worse for wear to you there, Andy. Or is it a trick of my cameras? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think We've just seen that points have been given or gifted to Kyle Felvers there. And to be honest, I don't mind it from Nicky Taylor. We always like to see people battling and everything like that, but we've seen these guys battle on track so many times against each other for championships and everything like that. They're back together as teammates after having a fair few seasons apart. Obviously, with HFT growing and growing and growing, and then obviously the ruling coming in saying that you only allowed 2 drivers. Nicky Taylor went for, I think, the Alarm Company was his old team. Kyle staying in HFT, and now they're back together and trying to put a charge on the championship. If only one of them is going to win it, they're going to make sure he's in the best chance to actually win it.
Well, yes, exactly, and nice to see that that teamwork's working well out on the circuit. Now, this is the fight for second place. John Jones, in fairness, has stood his ground quite nicely here. He's dropped away from Ben Smith to the tune of 20 seconds, but Paul Laramie has only now caught him, so Laramie needs to try and claim this second place, get the extra points. He's going to lose out to Ben Smith again, seemingly, but at least he could limit the damage here by breaking through into second spot. Over hill top they go. And John Jones under some pressure as they head down towards Knickerbrook Corner. 7.25 minutes to go. And Paul Laramie with some work to do yet to get into second spot. John Jones makes a bit of a mistake at Knickerbrook Corner, though. And that now is just going to give a glimmer of hope, maybe, to Laramie that a move could be on. John Jones drives onto the grass in an attempt to defend. It's one way of getting to the inside line, I suppose. He parks it on the apex, and Paul Laramie cannot find a way through. Oh!
No, and he's almost finding a way into the tie wall, isn't it? It's very, very difficult, this, for Laramie. It is a circuit we've said many a time it's obviously difficult to overtake, but that is being pretty much given as an example here by Laramie, as Joel Lask finds a way through rather easily as a GT3 car, luckily on the exit of the corner without losing too much time to Elliot Dalton Ayres, who hasn't really got too much of a problem from behind of Jay Warren, who I think has just set his fastest lap of the race. There we go, Joel Lask just carving through. No worries for John Jones, not being held up at all. There is a very calm looking Paul Laramie. Maybe wasn't so calm if we cut to a couple of moments ago. But he's just going to have to wait now until all these GT3 cars go past until he's actually going to have an opportunity to catch back up.
Yeah, but this could present an opportunity, couldn't it? If one of them gets a bit rough with John Jones, could open the door for Laramie. He's closing in here as they head for Shell, and indeed tries to follow Elliot Dalton Ayres round on the high line. That's not going to work. It leaves the door open for Jay Warren to come through, and Jay's got a face full now of John Jones's car. Nips from the inside to the outside, almost drives off the track altogether, and then there's a bit of an awkward moment at the apex. Paul Laramie sees his chance and will surely have better momentum over the hill. Did John Jones close that door? I think he did just about, and Josh Martin and Carl Felvers then come bursting through the middle. Close moments in traffic there through the British chicane. It's not a nice place, Jack, is it, to be catching the slower cars? And now John Jones has thrown it all away. He's off the road at Knickerbrook Corner. The gravel does its job and slows him down, and Paul Laramie is ecstatic with that. He's into second place.
I was going to say, you couldn't even tell he's in a race, could you, to be honest? Looks like he's just doing some kind of time attack, but I would put 20 quid on John Jones driving in his mirrors going into Knickerbrook there, because he had Kyle Felvers crawling all over the back of him. And it was just a case of he was looking at his mirrors, missed his braking zone, and just seemed to go straight on. So, a bit of a shame for him, because he was in that position validly. But now it's been gifted to Paul Laramie, obviously. And Felvers is probably having a bit of a sigh of relief there, because he's still within about a second of Josh Martin.
Yes, he is. Down towards Cascades Corner we go then, and Josh Martin for the podium, maybe. I think this is a possibility, isn't it? He's closing in on Jay Warren, and Jay doesn't seem to quite have the race pace this week. 40 kilos on board his car, but yeah, it's not been a brilliant race this for him. Had the big lead in the early stages. That was a road did. Hello. That is someone. Butler, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, I couldn't read the name there. Butler off the road in the GT4 spec Phoenix Sim Racing car. And that, I'm sure, caught the attention of the leaders as they came through what is a nearly flat-out blind left-hander.
Yeah, it certainly did. I was actually looking at something else. My phone just started going absolutely mental at me, to be honest. I had to shut it up very quickly, so I didn't actually see what was going on there. Andy, I do apologise about that, but it sounded very exciting. As Joel Lask still leads the way. I haven't missed anything. It says Nicky Taylor's at the top of the times, but he's not. I think that is a bit of a glitch. The Phoenix races, though, have done superbly, haven't they, really? And Joel Lask, it's sort of, I know there's a bit of contention about the way he overtook Carl Felvers in the first race. It's sort of hard to see a way around giving him the driver of the round, though. He's been that good, that quick. I know some people in the chat will be like, oh, it's under contention and everything like that. But yes, I give you that one. But he has been very fast. It's sort of hard to see anyone else, to be honest.
The only other candidate, I think, is the man on your screen right now, Josh Martin, who's put together a really solid night of racing, actually, this race in particular. But no, I do agree with you. Joel Lask has been the fastest, no doubt about it, and the progress he made through the order in the early stages of race 2, particularly impressive. And it is nice to see Josh Martin getting back to his top, well, not quite top form, but at least some sort of form. Had only had one top 5 finish this season until the reverse grid race, second place last time at Vallelunga. And now here he is, sat in 4th place, maybe with a chance of getting onto the podium. But there's one other man who might have something to say about that, and it's the man catching him up. Carl Felvis reinvigorated now in the closing stages, 2.5 minutes to go, and he's closing in on Josh Martin pretty quickly now, Jack.
He is indeed. Elliot Dalton Ayres has just put a purple sector 1 though. Josh Martin green, Carl Felvis green, Nicky Taylor green. And then Elliot Dalton Ayres just gone purple sector 2 as well. So if anything, I don't know what these tyres have in their compound, but they're getting faster and faster and faster as we get towards the last 2 minutes. I think a lot of drivers maybe have just stopped conserving the tyres and started to push as hard as they can potentially. It's the only thing I can really think of. But you're right. Josh is latching onto the back of Jay Warren, but Kyle Felvis is certainly going with him and has found some pace to go with it.
Yeah, I suppose the fuel is burning off. That does make quite a big difference, and that will speed a car up. And of course, we're not using that Hislop's and Knickerbrook chicane. It's only 3 corners, but that really wears out the tyres. The front tyres because of that extra couple of changes of direction, and the rear tyres because you're trying to get all of that power down on the ground out of 3 really low-speed corners. So maybe that's helping with tyre management. I'm not really sure, but yeah, the pace at the end of the race is very, very strong indeed. Josh Martin, though, maybe now becoming a bit more concerned with Carl Felvis arriving behind him, because his pace isn't quite as strong now as it was earlier on. He's matching Jay Warren, but no longer seems to be closing in. And Carl Felvis actually is right with him now as they head towards Britain's for what should be the penultimate time, Jack.
Yeah, it's only a minute left until we go on to the final lap of the race. And you're right, I think Carl Felvis may well have an opportunity to have a nibble on the next lap. I am just worth noting, I'm just having a look at the timing screen. Elliot Dalton Ayres did take about 7 or 8 tenths of a second off Joel Lask in that last lap alone. There's only a second in it now. So, yeah, you never know. Pressure could be piled onto him into the last lap, but it's probably more likely that we're going to see Kyle Felvis, you're absolutely right, making some kind of moves. Jay Warren is currently taking a few points off him, but I think Kyle is still going to come out on top in this round, isn't he? Because I think there were 4 or 5 cars in between himself and Jay in race 1, and there's only 1 in between them in this race actually now, isn't there? So if Kyle can actually get past Josh, it'll be a massive win for him this evening in terms of the championship, even though he may be slightly aggravated that he didn't come away with a race win or even a podium in that first one. It's still going to be aggregate. He's going to be on the way up.
Well, you say that, in a way it doesn't really matter, because if he gets past Josh Martin, which he will if Josh keeps doing that, then that will put him 4th. He finished, I think, 4th in race 1, didn't he, Carl Felvis? 2 4th places would remarkably be his worst score of the season so far. So it's a drop score. So actually, unless he gets on the podium and matches his results from last week at Vallelunga, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. It only alters the amount of points that he's dropping. There is an argument to say, and this is why I detest drop scores, that actually he's better off staying in 5th place because he's dropping fewer points then than he would be if he moved up into 4th or 3rd. But I won't go on to my drop scores rant for the time being. We'll save that for the next endurance race or something. Anyway, Jay Warren holding on to 3rd place for now, turns his way through Knickerbrook corner and comes up against the GT4 car going about 10 miles an hour, and I don't believe it is going to open the door for Josh Martin. Fantastic stuff for Josh. He's onto the podium, but you've got to feel for Jay Warren. That's the last thing he would have expected to see. Whoever was in that Cayman must have had a moment at Knickerbrook corner. It was Darren Butler again, I believe, for the second time this race. He rather gets in the way of some of the Cup cars down. There he is. He's crawling to a halt. The checkered flag, though, is waiting for Joel Lask. It's 2 from 2. The first driver to do the double this season. And of all the places to do it, Oulton Park surely the most challenging. Elliot Dalton Ayres makes it a Phoenix Sim Racing Pontoon, and Josh Martin gets into 3rd position on the last lap yet again. Knickerbrook corner proved to be the pivotal moment on the final lap, and Josh Martin gets past Jay Warren to sneak onto the podium. Felvis has to settle for 5th, Nicky Taylor in 6th position, and the rest of them will come across the line very shortly. Right, I think we're trying to move into... Oh, there we go. There is Andy Dorman across the line. We're back with the live pictures because we haven't yet had some of the front runners in the Cayman class. Ben Smith has claimed the checkered flag, but John Jones is back into 2nd place because Paul Laramie has been off the road. I think he's down to 4th position now. John Jones hangs on to 2nd in the class then, just about keeps Chris Blakey at bay by 0.4 of a second. And there is Laramie. He's off the podium after another late race drama, and that could have fairly significant championship ramifications. So that was your 2nd race of the night. Again, lots to talk about with our podium finishers, and we'll be doing just that in a couple of minutes' time.
Well done, mate.
Welcome back, everybody, then. And an entertaining 2nd race here at Oulton Park has just concluded. We've got the podium finishers from our 2 classes here with us to have a chat to. And we're going to start with our double race victor for tonight, Joel Lask, who managed to do what many thought would be impossible at Oulton Park of all circuits and come from the very back of the grid in race 2 to claim another victory. And Joel, for that to happen, a lot of things have to go your way, and I suspect there was a little bit of good fortune involved in the early laps. How exactly did you make all of that progress on lap 1?
I honestly don't know. I was starting a little bit further back, like at the back, because the cars rolled back a little bit, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stay out of T1 because I could see it all going to carnage, and managed to pick my way through. Just got incredibly lucky, to be fair. I'm not going to lie. Them GT4s just were in the right place at the right time to send myself through. So, yeah, that was a cracking race. I was not expecting that. So, yeah, exciting stuff.
What is it then that's clicked tonight? Is it a track that you particularly get on with? Because you seem to be faster tonight than you have been really at any point so far.
I honestly do not know. This car is not my favorite. I mean, this track isn't my favorite, but for some reason it just clicked. So I'll take it. I'm not going to complain. But yeah, let's see what we can do for the rest of it now, I suppose.
Got dangerously close there to breaking a rule that I've decided to enforce. No more bad-mouthing Oulton Park. It's a fantastic racetrack. I don't want to hear anything else about it. But yeah, Joel, fantastic effort there. Nice to have you back on form. And because of that, it's been voted between us here in the broadcast team that you will be the driver of the round as well. So the driver of the round award heading your way because you're the first driver to score 2 wins from 2 races in the same night, at least within the Cup class anyway. So well done.
I appreciate that. Cheers.
So Joel Lask then claiming all of the silverware really tonight in the 2 races at Oulton Park. 2nd place though behind him, Jack. That's where a lot of the late action was, and you can catch up with the man who came out on top in that battle.
Yes, Elliot. Well, Elliot Dalton Ayres, actually, there wasn't that much action at the end of your race, was there? Apart from the fact that you seem to be getting quicker and quicker. Once you got past Jay Warren, your sort of hunt down of your teammates, you were actually the fastest man out there on circuit. Was there ever a chance you thought you were going to be able to catch Joel?
Maybe I could have caught him, but I didn't want to do anything stupid and not bring the 1-2 and both of us go out for a DNF. But I was definitely getting a bit excited when I see the delta go down and down and down. But it is what it is. It's been a good night for me and Joel, to be honest.
Well, there are those 3 lovely points for fastest laps of the race, and I'm not sure who got it in race 1, but I'm fairly sure you got it in race 2. I think you were the fastest driver in race number 1 as well. You certainly were at some point, about 3 or 4 laps from the end. So, is the championship something you're sort of half looking at? I know you're a little bit further away than you would like, but you're still in the you were in the top 6 when we went into this evening, and today has only done you some favours.
I'm fully looking at it. I've just looked at the points now, and I'm in a good position. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of the rounds go. I mean, Snetterton I quite like. Paul Ricard I dislike, and Silverstone it's all right. So fingers crossed that I can stay there and climb the championship ladder and bring the gap between me and Kyle down. But yeah, hopefully.
Well, I'm sure there may well be, if there is a protest put in at all for any potential overtakes from race 1, without going into it too much, just stirring the pot here a little bit, what would sort of your view on that be? Do you think there's anything to have a look at, or do you think everything's fine?
Possibly, there's probably some stuff to look at, but I will leave it to them. So
Good
no more
answer.
comments.
Good answer, to be fair. Good answer. Right, congratulations, Elliot, on the second place, and we hopefully have a strong end to the season.
Cheers, Jack.
A strong career in journalism awaits Jack Oliphant, who always knows the difficult questions to ask. But yeah, well done to Elliot for finishing in second place. Now then, like in race 1, we've got a driver on the podium who we didn't necessarily expect to have there halfway around the final lap, but it all just worked out perfectly for Josh Martin. And I think it's fair to say, Josh, you'd already put together a really strong race. 4th place wouldn't have been a bad result, but how surprised were you at the opportunity that came about to snatch 3rd place there at the end?
I actually had a good race night. I had 2 good races in a row, which is really good. No, to be honest, on that last lap, I saw it coming. When we were heading down that back straight, I tend to look quite far in front anyway, and I saw the Cayman, and I thought, well, we're going to be on him on the exit. And I guess Jay maybe didn't notice him as soon as I noticed where he would be. So I'd kind of already predicted where the Cayman was going to be, and Jay kind of reacted last minute to it, and then he ended up getting on the brakes because he had to change his line, and I was able to just keep my foot flat to the floor and cut straight through the middle.
And it's that instinctive driving that can sometimes make all the difference. It certainly worked for you there. You managed to get yourself into 3rd place, and that does cap off definitely your strongest night of the season so far. Fair to say, though, the speed hasn't been bad really at any point, has it? It's just been a little bit of bad luck that's found its way onto your doorstep.
Yes, my qualifying has been my biggest problem. Like tonight, I had another terrible qualifying session, and that keeps putting me out of position. I get caught up in trouble. But my race pace has been really strong in pretty much all the races. So it's just nice to actually be able to show it tonight.
It was nice to have you on screen as well a little bit more tonight, Josh. And yeah, well done. Really impressive night. Hopefully you can carry this on next week.
Yeah, it was good fun. I had a good little battle with Carl. I don't know how much of you caught on the stream, but we were side by side for 3 corners in a row, and it was completely clean, which is what you like to see. And hope Eric gets well soon as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Second that. You've been without a teammate for tonight, haven't you, after that brilliant team result last week? But yeah, good to have you back on the podium, mate.
Yeah, cheers. See ya.
So that's Josh Martin then completing our podium interviews for the top 3, obviously, because that's what a podium is, in the Cup class. Right then, Jack, you are, I think, able to catch up with our race winner in the Cambridge. We've been complaining we were running out of things to ask him, but tonight he's given us plenty of material, hasn't he?
I was going to say, Ben Smith, you were struggling a little bit at the start of that one as well, weren't you? Talk us through the first couple of laps.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been so scared going into a turn 1 or throughout the whole lap, to be perfectly honest. And then I got spun round at the last corner. I can't remember by who, but that put me dead last. But then the racing gods were back on my side, and I saw Paul in the grass at turn 1, like the following corner. It was all going on, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you what happened.
Well, actually looking for some reason at Paul Laramie and his reaction to see whether he's listening to this or not. But he had a bit of a mare in that race as well. But we saw you charge down John Jones and properly send it over the curbs and everything like that. You weren't holding anything back. Was there a little bit of anger, a little bit of sort of red mist almost descending on you for the start of that race, just wanting to prove a point and get through as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I just wanted to get to the front as quick as I could. I know I had the pace in the end to get there. It's just a case of when for me. And thankfully it was as soon as, and then I could just pull away. I think I was like 40 seconds ahead by the end, which is pretty good. But all in all, good night.
Yeah, it's a subtle brag, isn't it? Yeah, it was a good night. But yeah, no, I'll keep my my other questions for you next week, my filler questions, in case we run out of things. But keep on entertaining us because it's been a blessed relief, to be honest. Ben, big congrats, and we'll speak to you next week, I'm sure.
See you next week. Thank you very much.
And Ben Smith then claims the victory. Now, we don't have our second place finisher in the Cayman class, unfortunately, John Jones, but well done, very much well done to him for hanging on to the flag. And it was Chris Blakey who was chasing him home towards the end of that one. Chris just ran out of time to get second place away, but a bit like we said to Josh Martin, really, maybe a slightly surprising podium. Something appeared to happen there in the closing stages to Paul Laramie. Did you spot what that was?
No, I didn't, but I saw Kevin on the corner, and he must have been tagged by a GT3 or fan. It was just you see him kind of going backwards across the grass. It's like, what's happened there? But yeah, it was a interesting race. I got kind of crowded out on the first lap by GT3s on a big spin, and then it was just chasing, trying to get back past John. Another mini spin, trying to get past John again, and then chasing. Chasing's always fun.
I was going to say, sometimes those are the fun races, aren't there, where you're just on it the whole time. You've got that target sort of locked on ahead of you, and you've just got to try and take time out of them. But finding a way past isn't all that easy. And we know that John doesn't mind getting his elbows out.
Yeah, that's one word for it. Yeah, no, it was just frustrating because I know that I should have been like higher up. I wasn't that far off Paul this in qualifying times and sector times and that sort of stuff. So I just thought if I get close, I'll just try and tag on the back. But I had 2 spins in the first race on my own at Knickerbrook, all of my own accord, just through that bumpy section. But it is what it is.
Is what it is indeed. A solid podium finish though, Chris. Good to have you back in the commentary box. Hopefully we'll chat to you again next week.
Thank you, guys.
So there we have it then. Our drivers from the podium within both classes, all happy to have scored some nice championship points. As we head to the next round, we're almost at the end now of what's been a fantastic season of racing. 3 weeks still to go. And next week we head to a circuit that, do you know what, Jack? I don't mind if they start slagging this one off. Snetterton, not a circuit I've always got on with particularly well, but it is a track that tends to produce some pretty good racing. I'll give it that.
I enjoy Snetterton. It's nothing to do with the fact that I got a win there at all.
It's not like you mention that every time we race at Snetterton.
I did. You mentioned me spinning at Donington, but no one ever mentions the lap record. No one ever mentions the 20-second win I got. Anyway, yes, I'm not sure whether we're doing Snetterton 300 or 200. Rich, which one are we doing? 300, fantastic, the better one. So loads of overtaking opportunities, unlike Oulton Park. So for everybody complaining about how Oulton Park is too bumpy and there's not enough overtaking opportunities, well, we're giving you Snetterton. There's only one hill and it's bomb hole and it's about 3 feet. So it should be enjoyable for everyone. And yeah, it's a great circuit. I really like it. Joking aside, I do actually like it. It should provide some good racing.
Certainly a technical challenge, isn't it? The Snetterton 300 circuit. That's where we'll be in a week's time for the 6th week of this 8-week championship. We've got 6 races still to go, and Carl Felvers perhaps moving one step closer to the championship. We'll wait and see how he gets on next week. A big thank you to everyone for the hard work done to put the broadcast together, to Rich, who's been behind the scenes working the cameras, to Jack for joining me in the box. Big thank you as well to everyone for joining us once again for 2 more fantastic races in the VRRC Porsche Cup. We'll be back again next week at Snetterton.